We need to talk about this. The American disadvantage in Africa. Stay tuned to the end of the video because this is going to be juicy. So the number one disadvantage of being an American in Africa, first, let me give you a little bit of context for your journey with us. A family of 7 traveling through Southeastern Africa, and we have been here for 4 going on 5 years. Okay, thanks to the Most High. But this is the context that you need to understand. Before we left, we knew that we were not spiritually, I'm going to say this again, we were not spiritually in alignment with the things that happen in the West, i.e., high inflation, pandemics, manipulation, occult tactics. These are some of the things that we were like, child, I'm going to opt out of this and I'm going to live my best life in the land of my forefathers, okay? And so most Americans, unfortunately, are not ready to be of service, especially Americans that have never built a business from the ground up or never built a house from the ground up or just live in a system where they're like, everybody owes me. You get this kind of mentality when you have people on different welfare systems and you're always in this perpetual state of everybody owes me. That is a spirit of entitlement that does not go far in Africa. It actually doesn't go far in America either, hence why we see our community in the way that it is. But it will go even much slower in Africa. You have to be willing to be of service to serve other people. That's why we have this thing in entrepreneurship that's called servant leadership, meaning I'm only a leader to the extent that I'm able and willing to serve other people.
You have to be a leader. You cannot be a boss. And that's where a lot of people get it wrong. When we coming over here from America, we think that we're entitled to a lot of things and we know everything. But as we know, a leader should be right in front of the pack, pushing with the pack, not at the back where they're pulling the leader. So you always have to have that skill set of understanding what the people that you're teaching, the people that you're serving, is going through. You can't just step into something. Just say like if you're teaching somebody how to swim and you never swim, you have to learn how to swim first, right? You got to learn how to swim before you can teach anybody or say anything about swimming. So you have to be of that mindset when you come here to Africa, because it is not time for mistakes. It's not time to be, hey, like a person that knows everything, because you don't know everything. And that's coming from experience. That's coming from when I'm thinking, hey, you're doing something the wrong way because I never did it this way. That's how you really got to think about it. Everybody does things different ways, and you have to accept that. You got to step back and be willing to be like, okay, now I can see a different way.
This next point has a lot of people struggling in Africa, a lot of Americans, I will say, because different nations, Indians, Chinese, Europeans, can come to Africa and find their dream life. They really do, y'all. They've been finding their dream life in our motherland for hundreds of years. But our people, this point gets us messed up. The consumerist mentality of America. America is a nation that is filled with consumerism beyond anyone else on the planet Earth. You may say, girl, how do you know that? Well, I know that because I speak to people who travel Africa. I live in Africa. I speak to people who have traveled Europe and said that even in Europe, there's a slower, more humane pace of life. And so it only makes sense that America, the queen of consumerism, has our people acting as consumerists. If you're going to lose your mind over a Wendy's chicken nugget, if you're going to lose your mind over not having what you want when you want it, well, then you'll probably end up back in Babylon quicker than we would even like to express. Because the world, let me put it like this: you are not the center of the world. The world will turn, the sun is going to come up, the moon's going to come up, everything will keep continuing on in the world as it is written, the way it should be, whether you like it or not. And that can be a hard thing for prideful people or people that have a consumerist mentality to digest. But it's better if you hear this and act in the fruits of the Spirit now before you leave, rather than coming here and flipping the table over because your lunch is an hour late, or flipping the table over because you want to order some pizza. I know last night I wanted a particular type of soup, but they said, hey, it's out of order. Now I could have been a petty person in the flesh and been like, oh my gosh, I need soup. But you can't do that, y'all. You can't just flip out. That's not a fruit of the spirit. Then you say you represent the Most High and you flip out over. That's not fruit of the spirit. So you know what I did? I said, okay, let me order this salad instead. But it's these little things that matter, because if you can't be loyal, faithful, and filled with the spirit on the little things, then how, when it comes to the bigger things, will you be able to be blessed? Well, you won't be blessed, because we have to reap what we sow and sow what we reap.
Yes. And the next point, guys, are you able to sacrifice? Are you able to live like a local? And I'm not saying like, hey, you don't have money. It's really, are you able to save your resources?
Can you live like a local? Let me tell you something about local African people. There's a lot of like lies in the media that Africans are poor and broke, and that's just not the reality. Instead, African people are wealthy and they're excellent at money management. Child, I read this book, Profit First, in 2020, and that principle saved our entire business life, okay, when we moved to Dar es Salaam. But on top of that, I realized that African people are not broke. They just don't spend frivolously. They will spend on their business, they'll spend on building, they'll spend on investing in their business, but they're not just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to go shopping and spend all this money for no reason. Okay. So, are you able to live like a local and make the right decisions that your business is going to reap later on? Are you going to make the right decisions right now to invest in your life in Africa, that you're going to look back 5 to 10 years from now and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I invested in this strategic advice?
You really can't complain about the life that you're living. Like when you come here to Africa, you really got to know that this is way better than the life that you came from. Most people do not understand how peaceful, how blessed they are when they're able to get out of the system of Babylon. When you are able to do that and you're able to have a foundation to continue to stay outside of that system, this is a non complaint area to be in. And that's where your blessings will come in. That's where your blessings will continue to flow, because complaining is not a good thing. If you complain, that's just going to set you back from where you're supposed to be in the next 2 years. That can set you back 10 years. So you cannot continue to sow poison in your own life. And that's just point blank period. It's very simple. I know the simple things is so complex, but when you really come here and understand how people really live, you can catapult what you are doing way faster.
For our last point, this is huge. This, like, put this on your wall, save this video, staple this to your wall. I'm not playing with you. You think I'm playing, but I'm for real. Get your Apple Pen, your notepad, your pencil, your pen, whatever it is, and understand that you need to start your business before moving to Africa. And I don't just mean start. I don't mean just register the LLC and then you're just like, oh, I have a business on paper and there's a website on paper. Get clients, get sales, run that business, manage clients, manage sales, manage an executive assistant, work with a strategic advisor. Now, we can only tell you things that we did. We knew back in 2019, because we had plans to move to Africa for years. We knew back in 2019, before 2020 came when we left, that we were going to have to run a business that was online, a digital business, and it was going to not only have to exist, but it was going to have to make sales. And when I say make sales, I mean make sure it can replace your full-time income you have right now. That is the moment when you are physically and spiritually ready to leave the West behind. And so if you're like, so what do I need to invest in? Let me tell you what we invested in. We invested in one, a business and messaging advisor. That was number one. Now, up to the point when we left America, we had already purchased dozens of courses, read lots of business books, finance books, but we also worked strategically in a group consulting incubator. It's now closed, it's decommissioned, because the mentor, she has accelerated in a different level now of entrepreneurship, serving businesses that make 2 million per year. But we were in the right place at the right time, investing in our business at the right time, meaning we saw an opportunity to work with someone who knew what they were talking about. It's African, he is no joke, but you got to be authentic as an entrepreneur and show up as your true self. And so what I was talking about when it comes down to investing, you're probably like, okay, But what do I invest in? And so I can tell you what we did to have a six-figure international business that we've been able to register in multiple three countries now. Like that just sounds crazy. That wasn't even on like the goal plan of 2020, but the Most High is great. And when you make those wise decisions, when it comes down to business, you have to invest in your sales. Without investing in sales and marketing, you don't have a business. We knew this one because we're marketing strategists and sales engineers. And so naturally, of course, that's like the main thing we invest in. And then number two is finance. I'm not talking like bookkeeping or accounting. I want you to invest in the mindset of profit first. Meaning, I'm not going to create a business strategy or a go to market plan that is not having high profit margins, because you are not Walmart, you are not Target, you are a small entrepreneur, a consultant that wants to have an online business. And to do that, you need to have an audience base. That's where sales and marketing comes in. And then when you have that revenue coming in, you need to know the methods of profit first mentality. This was written by a CPA. This is why we mostly work with finance, lawyers, tax advisors, international realtors. Okay, this is why we work in the professional services sphere, because these are the investments that you have to make into your business. After you invest in sales and marketing, which is essentially your message and how you present yourself to the world, then you can invest in other things. But even when it comes to that, as my great mentor has said, a lot of people will invest in vanity metrics and invest in like graphics and these lofty billboard advertisements without being able to duplicate and replicate results and replicate success. So we need to be in business with intentionality. And that means getting to the core of why we started the business and being able to articulate that on a higher level. So if you got any value from this video, if you're like, hey, I would love to talk to y'all one to one, check out the links in the description. We will see you in the next video. Shalom, shalom.